Okay, good. A little bit, Laureano was kind enough to say a little bit about Remote Learner, but just by way of background. Remote Learner was established in 1982. Obviously, we have not been a Moodle partner since 1982, but we were one of the founding Moodle partners and one of the partners who helped get the program established so we can provide financial support to the Moodle program. Currently, Remote Learner hosts more than 800 client organizations, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the schools and companies that we work with, including the North Carolina Community Colleges, the real estate organization in Ontario, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, a government office in the state of Massachusetts. But it's interesting, Martin and I wrote our presentations completely separately from each other. And Martin this morning asked the question, why do we educate? And since I'm talking about training and I'm talking about Moodle in the enterprise and Moodle in business, I asked the question differently, asking to start, why do we train? Why do we spend our company time and money on training? What are we trying to get out of it? And so I just wanted to kind of set the scene or set some context for what we're talking about. So obviously the first reason that we would train, and sort of the easiest one to understand, would be for compliance training. Sure, in the United States and in Canada and in the United Kingdom, where we operate, compliance training, so legally required training, that everyone has to go through about, human resources training. And I think I'm getting a little feedback, so I'm going to step back from the mic a smidgen. Okay. Yep, still getting feedback. So compliance training is sort of the most common, but the most common, but the least useful, I think, to an organization. We have to, by law, provide certain kinds of training, and and obviously we can all do that. It's usually not very interesting for employees. More interesting from a business point of view is the chart title, is to move the curve of performance. So if we imagine that without training, the people that we hire, there we go. Okay, there we go. Is that better? It's a little better. Okay. Still kind of. Can we turn it down a little bit? It might be a little loud. Move that. Okay. There we go. If we imagine that without training, someone that we hire, the curve of performance. So when they come on, when they start new, they don't know anything, right? They don't know how to do their jobs necessarily, or it takes a long time for them to understand how to do their job in the new context of their company. And then over time, it takes about 3 to 6 months that we know that there's a performance curve as someone comes up and learns how to do their job, learns who they need to talk to, learns which procedures are different from what they've done before, learns the skills that they need to do their job, and then of course we see that performance tends to taper off and level out over time. So the first goal of training in an organization is compliance, simply to comply with the law. The second goal would be to improve performance, right? Can we get people to performance faster? So can we get them to a higher level of performance, through training and development? But even that, we have lots of great people, and they're all doing their job and they're all learning their job very quickly. From a business point of view, from an organizational point of view, what we're really trying to do is what we call move the needle, right? We're trying to improve the performance of the organization through training. We're trying to improve revenue or improve profitability, improve customer service. So there's usually an external business goal, And if we can tie training and development to that business goal, that's when we really see the most benefit from investing in training and investing in developing people within the organization. Aside from the idea of developing people for development's sake, as businesses we have to keep in mind that our ultimate goal in training and development is to improve the performance of our organizations, is to move the needle in terms of what we're trying to achieve from a business perspective. So if we're all in agreement that this is why we would invest in training and development as businesses, then the next question that I would ask is, okay, so if I'm going to do this, I'm going to spend this money, why would I use Moodle? So the first, so Moodle, as we all heard this morning, as Martin, as Martin has talked about for years and years, it's open source, it's free. Anyone in the world can use it. It's been translated into just about every language on the planet. But why would we trust Moodle? Why would we use Moodle in our organizations when there are so many giant companies out there providing training, providing software for training, providing software for development? Well, first I want to talk about that open source piece. That open source piece is something that we can't, as businesses, that we can't overlook. There is strategic advantage to leveraging open source within our organizations. And we're seeing globally, if we look at the use of open source software from a global perspective, we're seeing a massive increase in the use of open source and an understanding of the strategic advantages of open source within the enterprise. So recently, these are some other open source companies that have recently had very large investments made in them. Most people are probably familiar with Red Hat, the distributor of Linux. Acquia, which is a company that supports a open source content management system called Drupal. They've raised many millions of dollars to support their cloud-based infrastructure and their cloud services, much like they operate a lot like a Moodle partner does in terms of their relationship to Drupal. Enterprise DB supports an open source database system called Postgres. Couchbase is a relatively new startup, but they've raised millions of dollars for a new way of managing data called NoSQL. So we have Postgres SQL and we have NoSQL. We're still trying to figure out how to use both. And then probably one of the biggest companies, one of the biggest billion-dollar companies that no one's ever heard of, a company called Automatic, and it has 2 T's because the guy who founded it, his name is Matt. But they run a little program that maybe you've heard of called WordPress. And WordPress is an open source, blogging, content management website system. It runs about 40% of the websites in the world are run on WordPress sites. It's an open source system. They've recently raised about $140 million, which gives them a $1.4 billion valuation. So open source companies we're really on the curve in terms of adoption in open source. So why is this happening? Why are more and more businesses adopting open source? So I think there are 5 main reasons, and the research that's gone around, the research that's been done has borne this out. Every year, there's a venture capital company in Silicon Valley called Northbridge Venture Partners. They've invested in companies like Red Hat and like Acquia and a few others that you've probably heard of. And every year they do a survey of several hundred CEOs and IT professionals about the use of open source and about the adoption of open source within the enterprise. And every year, these five reasons for the adoption of open source are the top reasons that every business that responds to this survey gives. They change places some years. Some years it's security over quality, and some years it's competitive features over security, and they change places. But these 5 have been very consistent over the last 7 years that they've been doing this survey. So the quality of the software is usually number 1 or number 2. Martin has a team of over 100 developers, and so there's a huge community of people who are using Moodle, who are pre-testing the releases, who are as soon as a new version comes out, or they're downloading it and they're trying to use it, or they're going to the prototype site and clicking on things that they probably shouldn't be clicking on. So there's a huge community of people who are constantly looking at the quality of the software and testing it. This is any large open source project will have a lot of people looking at it and testing it. There's a cliche in open source is that with enough eyes, all bugs are shallow. So when we have enough people looking at a project, then we can solve and find all of the bugs that we need to. Number two is security. When you have a lot of people looking at it, when you have a lot of people banging on it, when you have a lot of people who are using the software and using the system around the world, they find security holes, and those security holes tend to be fixed faster than with closed source systems. So Martin was talking about the security testing that magazine sponsored, and no one won the prize. There are very few closed source systems that could actually say that no one in an open competition could actually penetrate the security of the system. Competitive features. Moodle's always been competitive with the competition. I remember back in Moodle 1.4, which was my first version of Moodle, was Moodle 1.4. And I was I was doing a feature comparison between Blackboard and between Moodle. And all the way back in version 1.4, you could line up Moodle and you could line up Blackboard, and you could see that they matched in features pretty well, and it's only gotten, and Moodle's kept pace with competitive features, and the new systems in 2.7 and 2.8 are really exciting and are actually pushing the envelope. So Moodle's gone from like a follower to becoming an innovator. Ease of deployment, right? It's open source. You can deploy it for as many people in as many different places as you want. There's no limitation on the number of people that you can have using Moodle at any one time. You can run it on your laptop. You can run it on a cloud cluster. You can run it on Amazon Web Services, as Neville Siete does. You can run it on your own cluster, as we do. So the ease of deployment. You can deploy them anywhere, and it provides a platform for innovation. And this is actually, we can talk about features and we can talk about competitive and that kind of thing, but providing a platform for innovation by enabling us to make Moodle, having Moodle available to meet the individual needs, so we can tune it and we can customize it for our organization, is one of the biggest advantages. So, there are a lot of advantages, and all open source projects, share these advantages. And Moodle just happens to be able to take advantage of these strategic these competitive advantages within the learning and training space. And then, of course, we also can't forget that there is a financial advantage as well. But in this future of open source software survey, over the next few years, the people who did the survey expect that about half of enterprises that they surveyed, and this was across the U.S. and into Canada and throughout Europe, they figured about half of enterprises will adopt and contribute to open source software. 50% will use open source software to retain competitive advantage, and of course 68% report lower costs and improved efficiency. So those competitive advantages, the strategic advantages that I mentioned, all contribute to improved costs, lowered efficiency, and competitive advantage. When we're actually seeing more and more businesses begin to adopt Moodle and begin to use Moodle. In fact, Moodle, this is the results of a survey from the E-Learning Guild, which is a professional organization within the United States for people who engage in training and development within businesses. They did a survey and asked businesses of various sizes, what platform do you use for training and development? No one platform had majority of the market share. In fact, no one platform across that had more than 20% market share when you look across all of the sizes. But Moodle had the single largest market share, especially amongst smaller organizations. So Moodle is actually one of the most popular, and is probably the #1 platform for training and development within businesses. You don't think of it, we don't think of it that way usually, right? But those of us who've been in Moodle for a long time, a lot of us come from education, a lot of us come from schools, and we don't think of Moodle as a business platform. But amongst these, but amongst smaller, especially among the smaller companies, but even we're seeing some of the larger companies now and government organizations begin to understand that there are advantages of using Moodle to train and develop their people and be able to start moving those performance curves and start moving the needle of organizational performance. Just to kind of give you some more examples, these are some of the companies that we work with that have adopted Moodle, and usually on a pretty wide scale. We've got General Dynamics, the U.S. Department of Education, Huntington Ingalls, which is, for some reason, we seem to be attracting defense contractors now. I don't know why. But we've got General Dynamics and Huntington Ingalls. Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, that's the weird anchor symbol on the, I guess it'd be the left side of that. And we're starting to see more and more government organizations, the Massachusetts Department of Emergency Preparedness, the U.S. Department of Education, and then the American Federation of Teachers, which is the teachers union in the United States, are all using Moodle as their training platform. They're using Moodle to either train their people internally in terms of Royal Caribbean and General Dynamics, or the Massachusetts Office of Emergency Preparedness is using it to train firefighters and police and actually even bar owners in the state, throughout the state of Massachusetts. But because they can deploy it to as many people as they need, cost effectively, they're able to achieve their objective of reaching that very large audience with a platform that's cost effective for them. And then one of our favorite customers is Ashley Home Furniture. Have they made it to Columbia yet? Has Ashley Home Furniture made it? No, they haven't made it to Columbia. Okay. They're a large furniture retailer. Everyone's the blank stares. They're a large furniture retailer. They have 1,800. They have 1,800 salespeople, and we've worked with them to develop an enterprise platform that enables all of their salespeople to learn about the furniture and learn how to sell the furniture from across multiple companies, multiple countries. Multiple time zones, and do it within the context of their work environment. So they don't have to go to a classroom somewhere to learn about the new couch line that's coming out. They do it on computers, they do it on their iPads, they do it on their phones, during their lunch breaks, after work, during the work day as they have time. So we've been able to train 1,800 of their salespeople, cost effectively, and really provide cost savings for them. So we all know. So we've talked about open source. We've talked about how open source can provide a competitive advantage, and how Moodle's beginning to be used within the enterprise. But there are some differences between what a business or a government organization needs from Moodle that are in addition to the functionality that Moodle provides out of the box. And we've been working with a lot of businesses to provide those additional capabilities. And so I just want to talk a little bit about some of the areas that we're pushing for. All of the components that we develop, we release as open source back to the community. Everything that I'm going to talk about here, you can go to Moodle.org right now and download from the modules area, because we are an open source company, and we believe in open source, and we believe in the value of that community exchange, as it's a competitive advantage for us as well. Okay, so how is enterprise? So how would Moodle in the enterprise work differently from Moodle within a school or an educational context? One of the first areas that we think about was okay, who are the end users? The end users here are the employees, and the employees are thinking, okay, well, how do I learn to do my job, or how do I learn to do my job better, right? And if they've just got courses and a collection of courses and some content and that sort of thing, it's very difficult for them to understand how what they're looking at relates to their job. And then from the manager's point of view, the managers need to understand, how do I improve the performance of my employees? How do I train my staff in order to meet that improved performance, in order to improve my organizational performance, help my people become better at their jobs, so that we can meet our organizational objectives. So what we've developed is what we're calling the Enterprise Learning Intelligence Suite, and it enables us to, on top of Moodle, it sits out on as a set of modules on top of Moodle that enables us to begin to meet the needs of both employees and managers. And if it weren't for, if we didn't have an open source platform to build more open source components on top of, it would be this wouldn't be a viable option, both either for us to provide, because it'd be very expensive for us to develop the whole system on our own, and also it would be difficult to provide the kinds of service and the kinds of platform for innovation that organizations are looking for. So what we use, we use a coffee company as our example, as our demo, and this is actually a Moodle site. So Martin was talking earlier about how the new themes make it easier to make Moodle look very different and look very pretty. Well, this is actually quite a Moodle site that does not look like Moodle. Not that there's anything wrong with looking like Moodle, but it doesn't look like Moodle. But so we can imagine that as a manager or as a training manager, I want to use Moodle. I'm going to use Moodle to train my staff. How do I create the systems to help manage that training? How do I create those systems that would enable enable my people to know what courses they need to take to gain the competencies that I need them to have to be able to perform their job well? So the first piece that we developed was what we call the program manager. Now this is for most of you, for those of you who are in school or have been to school, which I assume is everyone, this will be a very familiar structure to you. So the program manager, you create a curriculum. So let's say we're going to do sales training, just because that's what I'm working on right now. So we want all of our sellers, to be able to understand our sales process, and we want them to be able to understand. We also want them to be able to understand the particulars of the geography where they're working, right? So if I have a salesperson who's going to work in Colombia, and they're also going to work in Peru, they need to understand if there are the cultural differences. How would I approach someone differently, right? So we want them to understand the company, we want them to understand the product, and we want them to understand cultural differences. So what I'll do is what I would do is I'd create a curriculum. I would create a curriculum on our product, and then there'd be courses underneath that. So the curriculum is product knowledge, and the courses then are, say, on Moodle and on Adobe Connect and on our hosting platform, on cloud services. Those courses represent a cluster of competencies, a cluster of skills that I want someone to have. The classes then underneath that, right, are the individual classes. So we might have a training course next week on cloud hosting, or you could take, that you could attend and learn those skills, or you could take that class online if you're not able to make it to that training session. So we don't actually, so what we can do is create multiple instances underneath that to help, to show that to provide an opportunity for you to learn those skills. If we think of a curriculum in a university, we might say, okay, the curriculum would be, I'm going to major in history, right? Now my courses would be History 101, History 102, and History 201. I need to have those 3 courses to have a major in history. What professor I take those courses from, right? So which classes I actually take to, is it Professor Smith or Professor Rodriguez that I History 101 class, it doesn't matter. As long as I have History 101, then I've met the requirement of taking History 101. So to bring it back to bring it back to our example, if we have our North American sales team curriculum, right? We have courses in company knowledge, general sales skills, and specific sales skills. And for the general sales skills, we have three. Is this working? Hey, we have the technology. And you can hear me. All right, good. Okay, so where was? Oh, right, classes. Do I take the face-to-face class on February 15th, the face-to-face class on March 15th, or the online class on January 15th? It doesn't matter as long as I get my general sales skills class done. So that's the curriculum. We're all familiar, from a school's perspective on, I'm going to mute this so it doesn't, there we go. We're all familiar with a sales perspective. We're familiar from a school's perspective. Here, let me just give this to you. Here. There you go. Okay. So we're all familiar from a school's perspective, a curriculum. So now what we need to do is get people into those curricula. We need to get the right people, the right training at the right time. So how do we do that? We've added a capability to Moodle that we call, it's not a very creative name, that we call user sets. So what user sets do is they basically, if everyone are some people familiar with Moodle groups? The groups within classes. No one's using Moodle group. Okay, there we are. Okay, good. Yay, thank you. So what we've done is we've created the ability to create groups, but at a site level. Right, so they're site-wide groups, and we call them user sets, we need to come up with a better name. But what it does basically, what it does is you define the groups, right? So let's say we have our sales group, and then we have a special group for people who attained their sales quota last year, right? So this is like the advanced sales training. You've done your basic stuff. We know you can do the basics. Now we want you to do the advanced sales training. So we create those groups, and we attach a curriculum to those curriculum or multiple curricula. Okay, so to each group, and then as people come into the system, we attach data to their profile. And we can create new profile fields. So we can see here we have our salesperson coming in, right? Their job is sales and their region is Colombia. They have 3 years experience, and last year they achieved their quota. So they would be assigned to 2 of these user sets, right? First is the general sales group, where they get the regular sales curriculum. And they're also assigned to the quota sales group, the group of people who made their quota last year. And so they also get the advanced sales curriculum. And that assignment then happens automatically. So if you come into the system with a profile, right, with those profiles, you get assigned to the user set and then automatically get enrolled into the curriculum, and then you can pick the classes that you want to take to be able to fulfill that curriculum. So that it makes it easier to manage who goes into what classes and automatically assigns people to the right curriculum so that they can get the right knowledge at the right time to be able to move the curve of their job performance and move the needle of business performance. So what we start to then build is the idea of the personal learning plan, right? So if we take, if someone's coming into our organization, where do they start? If we take the job competencies that we've defined in the curriculum, we take their personal profile, and the piece that we're building right now is the pre-assessment. Someone was asking earlier about adaptive assessment. There is actually an adaptive assessment engine available as a for download as a module that we developed with a college in Vermont to do placement testing. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It is available. It's in the modules, right? But we can add job competencies, the personal profile, and pre-assessment to come up with a personal learning plan, right? And then the personal learning plan then enrolls you in curriculum, and then you pick the courses and you pick the content, and you begin to interact with the communities who are associated, you're also associated with those curricula to fulfill your personal learning plan. And so when I come into Moodle, I can see, okay, these are all the courses that I need to take, and I've got a progress bar there that shows me how far I've gotten in my curriculum and how much more I still need to do to be able to achieve my learning goal. And at the end of that, we can award a certificate or we can award a badge, and show that you've actually achieved that. And then next year, if you have to do it again, then we'll come up and do it again. Okay, no, I didn't see the light going. Okay. I've been warned that this is going to, it's making me nervous. Then of course we have to work, each individual learning experience, each individual class and each individual learning experience, we can track your progress through each class and see how much, as you achieve each objective within the class, we can provide a little progress bar. And actually this is something I want to take a moment and probably diverge a little bit. In terms of talking about so we can talk about the curriculum and we can talk about the big structures and we can talk about managing the learner. What we have to also be very aware of and pay a lot of attention to is the actual learning experience itself. Martin was discussing some of the research that we want to do, in terms of that he wants to do in terms of data, in terms of notifications, in terms of what are the most effective learning experiences. And I could probably stand up here and talk to you for until you got really bored and left about cognitive science and about about how to design effective learning experiences. That's actually my background. So I could talk all day if you want me to. But what we need to do is but one of the biggest areas and one of the things that we're trying to address in terms of learning design and in terms of trying to understand how to apply an online environment to business and to an enterprise is making that leap, making that transfer from the online learning experience to actual job performance, right? How many of us have been in a classroom or in a lecture hall where we sit for a few hours, somebody talks at us for a little while, about what we need to be doing in our jobs and that sort of thing, and then we get up and we walk out and we go back to our jobs and we do exactly the same thing that we did before because we haven't deliberately tried to transfer from the training experience to the job performance. So what we're trying to do is trying to understand how we can take the learning experience and directly and deliberately have people transfer what they've learned into job performance, which is actually kind of hard. So as we're thinking about how to use Moodle within a training and development context within our enterprise, we need to think about not just, okay, I've delivered the training, but how do we transfer that training, into the job? And for smaller things like what you've seen here, which is sort of a procedural sales stage training for our sellers, we actually use deliberate steps of prepare, practice, and then we actually, in terms of the actual learning experience, includes an application step, right? So you actually have to go out and categorize, some learning, some sales opportunities according to the sales stages, right? So you actually have to go deliberately apply what you've done as part of the learning experience, and then we're going to come back and we're going to review it, right? You're going to talk about it with somebody else, probably a manager or someone who's more experienced than you are, and you're going to review what you've done so that you can close that loop of learning. Right? What's as Martin was talking about, getting that instant feedback, closing that feedback loop is what's critical in terms of learning, but you also have to close the feedback loop in terms of the application to the job. And that's where we're spending a lot of time thinking about that. We're spending a lot of time trying to develop learning experiences that help people make that transfer easier. Yeah, so the instant feedback and the review step and the actual deliberately applying that to the job is one of the critical aspects. So I just wanted to diverge a little bit from the kind of overall management and applying Moodle. So because the key to an effective learning experience actually happens here. The rest of it is all just data management, right? Everything that I've talked about so far is mostly data management. The key to the learning experiences is how do you design the actual course itself to help people do their jobs better. But assuming that they've done that, assuming that you've designed effective instruction, and that people can apply what they've done to their job, the other piece, back to the data tracking, the other piece that we need are the management reports. And one of the aspects of the user sets and the user groups that we've created is the role within those that's the manager role. So the manager can see all of the reports for just their people. Right, and you can see that they've started these people have completed the curriculum. These people haven't completed the curriculum. I need to go poke them so that they finish their training. I need to go make sure that they're applying their training to the job and they've actually improved their job performance. And there's a lot of reporting that you can do once you've got that structure, that hierarchical structure of curriculum and user sets, and brought it together within a learning context. So that's how we're applying Moodle to the enterprise. That's how we're trying to provide businesses with the strategic advantages of open source software within the training and development context. And we're looking at expanding. We're looking to expand this. We're looking at what's next? Where do we need to go from here? And a lot of our roadmap is in sync and is working in parallel with the Moodle roadmap, where a lot of the things that Martin's thinking about for the core of Moodle, we're looking at what do we need to do? Do we need to do anything? A lot of times we don't. Do we need to do anything to extend that so that it works within the enterprise context? So some of the things we're looking at are social learning. We joke that no matter how much you put online, what you really need to know is still in somebody else's head. So in the U.S. we call it "Hey Joe" training. So most training happens when you turn to the person next to you and go, "Hey Joe, how do I do this?" So that's so can we mediate that natural inclination of asking someone else within the online context. We're also launching the idea of learning as a service, right? So the idea the idea of providing, we're all familiar, we're becoming more familiar with the idea of software as a service. What's the next step, I think, in training and development is learning as a service. It's a subscription service. That's all you can eat. It's not a punctuated training delivery. Okay, well, we're going to have training this week, and then you're going to go back to your jobs. It's continuous. It's continuous, and it's based on what do you need to both perform your job now, and to position yourself so that you can improve your career. What are your career goals? Improve your career. Take that next step. For yourself. So we're launching learning as a service in terms of Moodle training. So if you're a Moodle administrator or a Moodle course developer, you can decide. Well, you move your way up. Learn in little chunks when you need it, right? So today I need to know how to use blocks. Tomorrow I might want to know how to build a form activity. So I'm not going through in sort of a lockstep curriculum. I'm picking and choosing as I need it for my understanding of what I need to be able to do my job. And then finally, we're looking at how do we apply the concepts of big data. Now that in 2.7, we have the logging and the external logging systems. How do we apply big data so that we know, okay, we know what you've done, we know the training that you've completed, we know the training you have left to do, we know what your career goals are, we have an idea of what your job performance is, we're tying that to company strategy, take all of that data together and make recommendations for, okay, this is what you need to know next in order to continue to improve your performance and continue to help the company meet its strategic goals. So there's definitely a role and a growing role, I think, for Moodle within the enterprise. Moodle has, as Martin talks about, Moodle as a platform. We really see it as a platform for lifelong learning, right? You can use Moodle you can use Moodle in the schools, you can use Moodle in the universities, use Moodle within the context of your career and in your job. And because it's a platform for open innovation, the capability and the potential to use that, throughout a person's career, throughout a person's life, is really quite enormous. And I think we're right on the edge of being able to really change how we think about lifelong learning and continuing to grow over the course of our lives. As one of the deans that we work with in the North Carolina Community Colleges said that education to him, what education, what training, and what learning is it's lifelong portable wealth, right? So once you have skills, once you understand how to do something, once you understand how to take what you know and apply it in the world, it's a source of wealth that you have that no one can ever take away from you. And so that's where we see that we can extend out the use of Moodle, extend how people interact with Moodle and have access to training throughout their careers and throughout their lives. So thank you very much for your time and attention. And if there are a few questions, I think we have a few moments.
Buenos días.
Oh,
mi nombre es Roger Escobar, trabajo en Grupo Espira. Estamos enfocados en el aprendizaje en el área de negocios. Nosotros nos enfrentamos a un problema y es que desde Moodle no podemos hacer atractivo el aprendizaje para el usuario. Es decir, el usuario se enfrenta a un diseño muy plano y no le convence aprender. ¿Qué están haciendo ustedes o qué propuesta tienen como para solventar eso o adelantarlo?
Okay. Thank you. That's a good question because the visual appearance, while it may not from an overall cognitive or learning point of view, make the biggest difference, people immediately make that decision, right? They immediately decide, oh, this is boring, or this is exciting, and there is that emotional component to it. I think a lot of the work that has been done to develop the themes, right? So the overall theme and the overall look and feel can make a big difference. But then once you get down into the content, there are things that you can do within the content in terms of simulation, animation. We use JavaScript and some other technologies to provide that interactive experience and to make the learning more attractive to get that initial reaction. We use now of course I've forgotten the name of the JavaScript library. Anyway, we use that within the context of Moodle, right? So Moodle provides the framework, Moodle provides the activities, and it provides the basic organization. But then the content itself, you need to make sure that it's attractive, that it has illustrations and animations and things for people to do rather than just read. But you can use Moodle within that context. That answers the question.
Hi, Jason.
Hello.
I have a big question about what you tell us about the big difference about the classical training inside a company and training as a service. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about that?
In terms of learning as a service?
Yes, learning
right.
as a service.
So Yeah, that's what like I was saying earlier, we see it as the potential to change the way people think about training, so that it is continuous, right? So and it's pluggable, right? So software as a service, you simply go to the website, you type in some stuff, and bang, you have a website, right? Learning as a service, you can envision. I mean, in the kind of long-term vision, you can imagine it as a simple subscription, so that every day, if you wanted to learn something new, you could go to the site and it would help you understand what your learning goals are, right? And then provide you with the learning opportunity to learn that new skill. For example, and this is a small example, but if you're familiar with the website Duolingo, right? So Duolingo is language training, and if I'm trying very hard to learn Spanish. My Russian keeps getting in the way. But so every day I can go to Duo. Every day I have a tutor, but every day I also go to Duolingo, and spend 15 minutes. Right? I just spend 15 minutes practicing my Spanish. But the fact that I'm doing it every day, and the fact that as I get better, right, it increases the difficulty, and it allows me to practice new skills. Right? If I can get through an activity without making more than 4 mistakes, then okay, then it will move me on to the next one. If I make more than 4 mistakes, it starts me over again. Right? But eventually, as the system learns what my skills are, and as I go back every day, there's that relationship that I'm building up, that data profile that I'm building up with the site. But it's a subscription, right? I can practice as much as I practice 15 minutes a day. I could practice an hour a day. I could practice 2 hours a day. I could do it once a week. It's up to me at that point, right? But it's always available. It's constantly on. It's constantly, so I can always use it. If I've got 15 minutes, I'm waiting in line, I'm practicing my Spanish. So that's, if you can envision that, but with outside of larger than the language context, you can imagine it for business skills, right? If I wanted to learn accounting, and the system would learn, okay, how much accounting do I know, right? Am I very beginner or am I very expert, right? And then as the rules change, or if there's new accounting practices that come on, my subscription service would immediately make those available to me, and I can consume those anytime I want, rather than having to go to a training or be online at a certain time at a certain day. So that's kind of the vision for the longer term vision for learning as a service. Thanks for the question.
Hi. The corporate training or e-learning training for corporations, it's a really big challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And we experiment that part in our company. But my question is, based on your experience, do you have any recommendation for time window or window time that the courses or the curriculum should be available for each employee? Because people get lazy. I mean, they can start the first 2 courses, but after, when the boss see the report, you don't know, you lose interest in, and you don't know how to continue to finish the information that we already have there. Do you have any recommendation for that?
It's a good question, and it's a problem that we're still working on the kinds of answers, right? The right kinds of answers. It's funny. I think I was talking to Jose. Where's Jose? Anyway, I was talking to Jose the other day, and he was saying that he thought it was he realized that it's everywhere, right? It's not just in one country or anything. That people get a little bit lazy, right, about online training. I think some of the answers will actually be social. So if I have an obligation to someone to complete that training, not necessarily a boss, but maybe a peer, right? Then I'm much more likely to continue to work towards that, because someone else is depending on me, right? I mean, big lectures in a university. Why do we go to a big lecture in a university? Even in a big lecture, there's still that kind of social, there's somebody there who's noticing whether I'm there or not, right? So I think the answer is going to be partially social. when I was part of the team and you know, so it's peer learning, team learning, and I think there's also that idea of showing of that fast feedback, showing that okay, the training that I've just engaged in actually helps me do my job better, right? So if I'm interested in doing my job better, which I should be, you know, if I'm interested in doing my job better, and if there's some sort of feedback on that okay, I can see how the training applies to what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, and I can do it better, I can do it with less stress, I can do it faster, then there's that intrinsic motivation as well, right? So there's that internal motivation. So I think those are some of the answers. You know, I think those are some of the answers. Team-based learning, you know, is very popular. Team-based learning is very popular as well, and also making the learning interesting. We've had really good luck with problem-based learning. So we give people an interesting, open-ended problem to solve, right? And so, for example, in sales training, I might give them an email, you know, like some mock emails from a customer, and say, okay, what's the opportunity here, right? So write the proposal. How would you create the proposal for this person? Is much more interesting than sitting there and reading, okay, well, this is how I create a proposal, and you know, and it also helps me make that leap.
Listo. Ok, yo tengo una pregunta. Es en cuanto a los nuevos avances que trae Moodle. Mi pregunta es, tú hablabas sobre Big Data, ¿sí? Entonces, ¿qué avances trae actualmente Moodle para generar análisis de datos, estadísticas e inteligencia de negocios en los sistemas?
I'm not sure I understood
¿Qué
the question.
avances hay actualmente en Moodle para generar inteligencia de negocios?
Okay.
Business intelligence.
Okay. So yeah, I think the advances that we're seeing in 2.7, as Martin said, with the more advanced logging and the ability to take the activity stream. I think that's 2 minutes. Take the activity stream and move it outside of Moodle, right? So then, it was like the illustration I have here. So we can take that activity stream, you know, and we can look at okay, are there patterns, right? What are the patterns that people engage in who are successful in the training, right? So do they log in every day? Do they log in twice a day, right? Mm-hmm. So, or you know, what activities do they engage in? Can we correlate between between achievement on a quiz and achievement in the workplace, right? Is there that correlation? So I think there's so yeah, we're definitely starting to get to that level and starting to get to that component where we are able to make those predictions and use the analytics to both understand the effectiveness of our training and the effectiveness of our training in improving business performance. Was there one more? No? Okay. Okay.
Bueno, muchas gracias a todos. Gracias a Jason por su tiempo. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you. Muchas gracias.